Hi friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the third film in the Harry Potter franchise. If you've watched the previous two film episodes, then you know that I struggled with the first two films because they were just so soulless, I want to say. Like, they just focus so heavily on hitting all of the plot points in the book that they felt like really fast-paced, like too fast-paced, but also too long. They had no style, they had no rewatchability. If you've read the book, why would you watch the film? This is the first movie that has a different director. So this was directed by Alfonso Cuaron. Sorry for the mispronunciation there. I really feel like the change in director also resulted in a change in the tone of the films, like for the better, 100% for the better. And the internet seems to agree with me. They feel like this is one of the best films in the franchise. And this is also the first film that really feels like an adaptation, like somebody has taken these plot points, taken the feeling of the story, the larger point of the story, and finally adapted it as its own thing. This film works for me in a way that a lot of the other films didn't. This is the first film that, like, I was actually excited about watching. Like, the minute we got into it, within like the first 10 minutes, I feel like it had very different vibes. There's just more texture and movement, and I'm not a film person, I'm sorry. There are probably film words for this. I am a book person who's looking at these films in comparison to the books. Every scene just had more movement in it. It didn't feel like a stagnant world built on a set and filled out with CG. And I feel like that's partially because some of these things were actually filmed on location. Like the Hogwarts grounds, apparently they filmed around a lake in Scotland, so you're getting a lot more like mountainous regions, and like some of the same sets were used for Hogwarts, but other pieces are actual locations in the nature, and that feels real. And it because it is real, duh. Even though this is supposed to be a fantasy world, having that texture is the word I want to use, to the world by filming it in real places and making it seem like old and really rooted in the past was fantastic. I also loved that there's more magic in every scene. There's more stuff going on in the background of every scene. I think that adds to the rewatchability for me. Like, the first two films didn't take any liberties, and there's nothing really interesting going on in the backgrounds. Whereas these scenes, there are birds flying, owls flying, people just doing magical things or impossible things that obviously require magic in the backgrounds of the scenes, so that like you can't possibly look at everything that's going on in the scene, so like you can rewatch it and discover something new. And I found that was especially true for scenes in any magical space. So like scenes in Privet Drive, there were still like birds swooping and stuff. Like there's more stuff going on. It feels more real. But once you move into the magical world, like that first scene in the Leaky Cauldron, at the dinner table there's a kettle that's going around refilling everybody's coffees or teas. There is a gentleman with an impossibly tall stack of dishes that have to be sort of held up by magic in some way as he's setting the places, right? And it's like that in almost every scene that's set in a magical space. It just adds a richness and intrigue to the world that I loved. It also takes time to deviate from the book and include scenes of character development, like emotional scenes. There is the first scene of the Gryffindor boys coming back from the feast. They're all hanging out in their dormitory. They're in their PJs, and they're not formal PJs anymore. They're like PJ bottoms and t-shirts. They're all sort of gathered around a couple people's beds, and they're eating these candies that produce animal noises, right? So like you have Neville making elephant noises and Ron roaring like a lion, and they're all just giggling and trying these candies and sort of like playfully pelting each other with candies. And you get the sense that these boys who live together for like 9 to 10 months of the year, I have to assume in a boarding school, they sleep in the same room, they do homework in the same room, they attend classes together. Like, it's logical to assume that these people are close, even if they're not best friends like Harry, Ron, and Hermione are. You would think that there has to be some closeness with the rest of the people that you literally live with more months of the year than you don't. And I think we really get that sense of closeness and friendship in that scene, and I loved it. That's exactly what I've been talking about with some of the earlier films, where I was like, they're jumping so fast from scene to scene to hit all the plot points, but there's no reason for Harry, Ron, and Hermione to be friends. We don't see them ever just being kids and dicking around, and this is exactly what Prisoner of Azkaban does. It shows the kids dicking around, and I loved it. And that's something that the books don't even do, really, with the rest of the students. We see it a little bit at the Burrow with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but this extends that friendship and closeness that these kids in a boarding school have to the rest of the students. I really appreciate that the Scabbers and Crookshanks conflict between Ron and Hermione that causes several rifts is eliminated. Because there is so little time to spend on character development, on closeness, on friendship, eliminating it and showing it as sort of a little bit of bickering back and forth is an important choice. Furthermore, that the firebolt shows up at the end as a fun, exciting gift from Sirius. It's not a point of conflict. It doesn't force Ron and Harry to band together and isolate Hermione. It doesn't sever that friendship. It also consolidates the plot into something more manageable and watchable, like to watch our characters be emotionally all over the place and like first to demonstrate that closeness of friendship, then to show it torn apart, then to repair it. Like, there's not enough space in these films to do that. And I feel like if Chris Columbus was directing these films scene for scene, we would have gotten that, and it would have been painful and clunky and poorly done. So I'm glad that this film takes the liberty of cutting things out and reworking only what has to happen. And thank all of the deities that Quidditch was reduced down to one match. It was just the important part of the Dementors showing up, Harry fainting, falling off his broom. We only need that for two reasons. It motivates Harry to seek lessons with Lupin, and it destroys his broom so that we have a reason for the firebolt showing up in the end. All of the other Quidditch matches are eliminated, and it is so glorious because Quidditch is hard to animate. Clearly no one has the CG skills to do it. It looks terrible. It's a waste of time. It's like not part of the plot. I love that the Quidditch was eliminated. I admitted to skimming over the Quidditch scenes because I just can't. I just can't with Quidditch. It's not something I have the patience for. It's a fictional sport that I literally don't care about, so I'm so glad that the films eliminated it. The other emotional scene that this film adds is Harry overhearing McGonagall and the Minister Fudge talking about how Pettigrew was murdered by Black. Black knew where Lily and James were and betrayed them to Voldemort. That's why Black broke out. He's out to get Harry, finish what he started. Harry runs away out to this rock to be alone, and he's under the invisibility cloak and he's crying. Like, he has a deeply emotional reaction to learning that his parents were betrayed by another person, by somebody that they thought was their friend.
He was their friend, and he betrayed them. He was their friend! I hope he finds me. Because when he does, I'm gonna be ready. When he does, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him.
Harry has this angry and violent outburst, and this is a darkness that we haven't really seen in Harry, but it indicates this tonal shift that's happening, that Harry is angry about all of the trauma and the loss that he's experienced. And I mean, it's a little bit shocking, but it's also a little bit cathartic to finally see Harry have what feels like is an appropriate emotional reaction, in that it is an emotional reaction, finally. His life is only gonna get harder, and he's only gonna get like more frustrated and angry as he gets older and really understands what it means for Voldemort to have killed his parents, for a friend to have betrayed his parents. I kind of love that this film made space for these emotional moments. I loved the casual magic everywhere, like I've mentioned before. However, it does result in two things that I don't like. The first is the break in the logic of the world. So Harry, right at the opening of the film, we see him practicing magic. He's learning to perform the illumination spell, and he's breaking the rules that you can't use magic outside of school. He has this trace on him. We've seen it gets him in trouble in Chamber of Secrets when Dobby uses the spell in a house where no magic is supposed to happen. Here, he doesn't get the warning for practicing magic at the beginning of the film. He gets the warning for accidentally blowing up his aunt, a sort of a break in the logic there. And I think that moment under the sheets with Lumos, Harry is playing with his wand under the sheets, and I feel like it's a very thinly disguised metaphor for the sort of sexual awakening of Harry. We see that he's aging, he's becoming an adult. Things are about to get a lot more adult in this film, so the sort of masturbation image that is evoked there, like right off the top of the film, I think is supposed to indicate this growth in the character. So while I think it is an effective visual to show this growth and this change in the character, I think it also breaks the rules of the world, and that's just poor oversight. The other thing that I hated was the racialized shrunken heads.
Yeah, take it away, Ernie. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
There is a stereotyped caricature of a decapitated Jamaican man that is included on the night bus purely for comedic effect, to make bad dad jokes. And considering how few people of color there are in the Harry Potter films to begin with, how few people of color have speaking roles, that a significant amount of screen time is devoted to this horrible stereotype that adds nothing to the film. Like, the night bus is already so weird and wacky and magical. Everything that's going on, like Harry having this like very physical comedy of like the beds moving, when they stop for the old lady and Harry like smashes into the window because like, yeah, this is a weird bus and a weird situation. Like, there's already so much comedy in that scene and magic in that scene that the shrunken heads do nothing for me. Maybe it speaks to Britain's colonial past. Jamaica was a colony of Britain. This decapitated Jamaican man is turned into an object for amusement, for decoration. He's replacing fuzzy dice hanging off the mirror of the bus, right? It's mind-boggling to me that this was ever considered a good choice, especially considering the director is Mexican, and this film overall seems to include more people of color. Like, if you look at the cast of this film in general, beyond our like named main characters, I'm thinking especially of the scenes where we see the class of third years together. There are a lot of people of color in that cast. There is a speaking character who is not Dean Thomas, who is canonically black, who speaks several times.
That's right. Black can be anywhere. It's like trying to catch smoke. Like trying to catch smoke with your bare hand.
He's not Dean Thomas. We do see the character who is established as Dean Thomas in other scenes, and it's not Dean Thomas. Like, there seems to have been an effort on this team's part to include more people of color. That the choice was also made to include this really shitty stereotype is absolutely mind-boggling to me. And I think in light of Disney editing out bums in movies like Splash so they can include them on their family-friendly Disney Plus platform, Warner Brothers needs to get on editing out this shitty racist thing from a film that I feel like is otherwise pretty fucking fantastic. Like, this is the first film in the franchise that feels like a proper adaptation. It feels standalone enough. It has style, it has rewatchability, it has a lot of humor, a lot of magic, a lot of texture and richness. And also this like really shitty stereotype
Take it away, Ernie.
that is just unacceptable. Warner Brothers, not that you're ever gonna see this, but if you happen to see this, you should edit it out. And I think it's totally fair to do it. The editing out of racist shit from texts, I think, is something that is common. If you think about the play Holiday Inn compared to the movie Holiday Inn, where they do blackface, yeah, the plays that are performed now, they edit that out because society has evolved to realize that that's not okay. And this racist character of a Jamaican person that's being treated as an object, it needs to go. I wish that would happen. Please and thank you. Other than that, the shrunken head, I think this is my favorite film thus far. I have hope that the later films, that the change in the directors with each film will only work to improve this world. We'll see. Let me know your thoughts on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban film adaptation in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this film. Thank you to my patrons who make videos like this possible. I really appreciate the work that you enable me to do. If you are interested in becoming a patron and tipping me for the work that I am doing on projects like Lumos, your support, especially in these weird COVID times, is much appreciated. Right now I'm working on a cut of me reacting to this film for my guinea pig patrons. Janice's reaction.
What the hell are you doing?
I just back away slowly. Movie commentaries is something that I am playing with, and they are folks who have first crack at this. They are offering feedback as I work on this skill. If you're interested in checking that out, links to Patreon are in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you soon. Bye.